Assalamu alaikum, Tausif here with Walk and Talk Cricket. Today we'll talk about India versus Bangladesh game that happened yesterday, and eventually India won by 5 runs, Duckworth and Lewis method. So although India won, but there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. People are sort of blaming India for cheating, Kohli's on-field behavior, especially asking umpires to call no balls or hinting umpires to call no balls. Kohli also did the fake fielding thing, but all this and the umpires and match referee, nothing was happened. Obviously, especially Bangladesh and Pakistan supporters are not happy with it. Bangladesh supporters for obvious reasons, that they wanted Bangladesh to win. Pakistan supporters, because if Bangladesh beat India, then Pakistan would have been still, Pakistan probably had higher chances of making the semi-finals, condition they beat Bangladesh and South Africa. So what exactly happened? So I guess when Kohli was batting, I think young Hassan Mahmood, he bowled a bouncer, and Kohli looked at the umpire and suggested it was a no ball. And umpire Erasmus, same umpire who was in the Pakistan game against India where he called a no ball that was controversial. This time around it was called a no ball, and again the question marks over, does Kohli have to do that, or do the umpires call the no balls after Kohli tells them to? That wasn't a no ball. I think it was 18th over or 17th over, I can't remember, but I was watching the game anyways, and that wasn't a no ball, but umpire ended up giving it a no ball. So a few questions arose there. So he did that twice in their batting, and question is around because he already did that in the Pakistan game twice and twice in this game, umpire coincidentally was the same. Umpire, South African umpire Erasmus, really good umpire, good reputation, decision making is awesome, but did he falter because it was Kohli? Did he falter it was India? I don't know. So the question is that is Kohli getting away with it because he's Kohli? I mean, I love his batting and I love how he plays and everything, but is he allowed to suggest umpire? Is anyone else allowed to do that? Because I think twice it happened that after he signaled to the umpire gave it. So anyways, and twice it wasn't a no ball, or it was like yesterday it was definitely below his head, and a bowler is allowed to bowl one bouncer between shoulder and head. Okay, now second thing, when India were fielding, we talk about the fake throw. India was fielding, and I think it was maybe second ball of the 7th over. Linton Das hit Axar Patel towards deep, I think point, or maybe it was cover point, yeah. And Kohli was probably at point. The ball went back, they ran two, the fielder from the boundary threw to the keeper. Kohli was halfway, so Kohli pretended to throw to the non-striker end. Usually the leg umpire is on the leg side, but in this instance he was actually standing at the point, so he was maybe 4 or 5 meters away from Kohli, and he could see that, and there's footage that you can see that how close he was, and he could see what Kohli was doing. So Kohli pretended to throw towards non-striker end. Nothing happened obviously, but he just pushed the non-striker guy harder, whereas the ball was already thrown and maybe heading towards the keeper. So with the fake throw, I mean, the law is, which has been recently introduced, maybe 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, that it's a five runs penalty and the ball is declared dead. So if you get those 5 runs, Bangladesh wins the game. I'm not saying that affected, but what Kohli did was what we used to do and a lot of people used to do. Fake fielding has been there for ages, and there is a reason that the new rule has been introduced to cut it down. So obviously Kohli did that. Umpire Erasmus was maybe very close to him, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 2-3 meters, less than 5 meters I would say, and he didn't side Kohli. He didn't give him any warning, and there was no penalty runs awarded to Bangladesh. Although it didn't affect the outcome of that particular delivery, but that he did make the non-striker guy run harder maybe, Again, that's at umpire's discretion if he calls it or not. Not warning Kohli for that would be my question, that why he didn't even bother telling Kohli not to do it again. So again, question marks around that. So overall, like, and Shakib Al Hasan, when Kohli called for a no ball, Shakib Al Hasan went to the umpire and said, well, this guy shouldn't be doing it, but he was doing it in a friendly manner. And why in a friendly manner, and why not in an aggressive manner? Was he there not to win the game, or was he he did in a manner, Shakib Al Hasan did it in a manner that he just wanted to record his complaint without making it quite obvious that he wasn't happy about it. Now, why the players all of a sudden have changed their attitudes towards Indian players, or the umpires have changed their attitudes towards Indian players? One, obviously, everyone plays IPL, everyone wants to play IPL, so people are not as aggressive as they used to be, especially the guys who are still in line to play IPL, because if we have one or two bad incidences, you might get bad press, and your chances of getting picked up in IPL become less. I don't know if it's the same case with umpires, but definitely players are way more friendlier to Indian batsmen now. The bowlers are more friendlier to Indian batsmen now than they used to be. Again, it's a good thing for cricket, everyone is friend, and but overall, like, the question now is becoming, is India trying to buy the World Cup rather than winning it? I think that's unfair to say, because India is a good team. They are playing at a team, and their best batsman Kohli is in form of, is back where he used to be. Surya Kumar Yadav again is form of his life. So I don't think it would be calling India cheats would be fair. Yes, I think they've crossed the line, and especially their very best player Kohli has crossed the line a few times. Why umpires are not telling him off, or why the match referee David Boone didn't say anything or didn't do anything about it, I really don't know. These are the question marks. Overall, like, because people say, oh, India's got money and BCCI is ICC. Again, like, I kind of partly agree and partly disagree with it. The point I agree with it is, obviously India brings all the money to cricket, the money that wasn't there before, right? Majority of, taking Pakistan aside, obviously Pakistani players don't play IPL, but majority of the players, like New Zealand players or other players, rely on IPL, right, for a living and to prolong their careers or to make more money in less time, right? So there's nothing wrong with it. Again, for international cricket sponsorships, again, BCCI, or not BCCI, but India is the biggest market. It's just how it is, right? Do we think they're dictating it? I guess, like, to a degree they are dictating it, and you can't stop it, because this is how it is. More people in India watching sort of World Cup, and do you really want ICC? Probably, I don't know if they do, but if I was ICC, I would probably want India to go to the knockout stages at least, so the interest of majority of the people stay alive in the tournament. If India being kicked out in the first round, I think the revenue will definitely go down, especially from sort of television rights and all that stuff. I know they get fixed television rights and everything, but on top of that, how the games go, small things like if I go back, right, so I give you an example how in the last 20 years things have changed. So I'll give you an example how things have changed in last, like, say 20 years. I came to New Zealand in 2002, and India were touring I think test matches and one days. So they made like drop-in pitches, but New Zealand made seaming tracks. So what happened there was I think India was getting balled out at 450, under 200, and New Zealand was chasing it down, or like it was like the test matches were finishing in three days. I remember Tendulkar scored 1 run in 3 innings. That was 2002-2003 season. I watched one of the games. And India didn't tour again for another 6 years, right? So they toured again New Zealand after 6 years on these conditions. Not conditions, but what I know for a fact. I think the television rights were around, New Zealand cricket probably would have got around $26 or $28 million just from that tour. Okay, just look at the conditions. India sent for test matches. India sent their test players beforehand to play first class cricket in New Zealand. Can you believe that a local like national team is allowing, or national cricket board is allowing, overseas players to play for the domestic teams ahead of their own domestic players, so that these guys are ready for the test matches in New Zealand? I know Dravid, Lakshman, Karthik, these guys played, and Mishra, I think these guys played in the New Zealand's first class competition, I think 1 or 2 games, like a warm-up for them, right? And after that, I think the wickets were flat as, like 2002 you're finishing games in 3 days, right? 2008 comes, 2008 or 9, yeah, I think 8 and 9 it was. Flat decks. Tendulkar scored 160. I was fortunate to be there at that ground at Hamilton. So things changed. India dictated that New Zealand cricket, if you want us to tour, you get a lot of money from TV rights and that's good, but you have to have our test players coming beforehand, playing for your first class teams, getting ready for the test tour. New Zealand was fine with it. Why not? Because there was a lot of money involved. So I just gave you one example that India had a bad tour, and for example, if you're playing 2 or 3 test matches, and instead of 15 days of cricket, you're getting 9 days of cricket, I'm sure there's a lot of revenue loss and things like that, right? So next time they made sure that when they're touring New Zealand, they get the right tracks for test cricket, and their test players get enough exposure to New Zealand conditions beforehand. So I guess, you can't really deny it. I mean, these are facts. I don't think they can probably bully bigger boards like England and Australia. Maybe they can now, but most of the other teams would oblige whatever India says, because they just bring in a lot of money. So to cut the long story short, I personally don't see anything wrong with it, because India brings in so much money in the cricket. They should decide how the things are run, so that obviously the money can be maximized. Is it affecting the spirit of cricket, or is it affecting? It certainly is. It is. I mean, like now people sometimes don't go as hard as they used to go on Indian players, primarily because they've played IPL and they're friends with them. Secondary, maybe they need an IPL contract and they don't want to be controversial. So so coming back to the Bangladesh and all this, Bangladesh should have won the game, regardless of Kohli asking for a no ball, or regardless of Kohli doing fake throw, because they were in a very good position. They threw their wickets away. Their strategy wasn't right. 8 and over, 9 and over, you basically need 1 boundary in 2 overs, and then you can run 2s and 1s and you can still get it. So I think their strategy wasn't right. So I don't think it's fair to blame anyone, umpires or Kohli or whatever, to blame that they were playing in the rain. And that's another thing, people saying, Bangladesh started the game, umpire started the game when the conditions were not good. Conditions were good enough for the fielders, right? So if there is anything, the outfield was wet. I think there was an advantage to the Bangladeshi batsmen, because it's wet, it's slippery, fielders won't be able to attack, and the ball will be soggy, they won't be able to throw as well, and they won't be able to bowl that well. Bangladesh, they were just running on the pitch. I can understand, it could be a little bit softer than, it was before, but it wouldn't have been that much of a difference. However, like when you're fielding in rain, the disadvantages to the fielding team. I understand that India were behind the run rate and everything, and they wanted to play. So they took a punt and it worked out well for them. So in short, I don't think Bangladesh lost this game because of the umpires. Yes, things could have been better. Umpires could have kept a check on Kohli, fake throw, and those suggestions he was giving to the umpire. Those gestures were not, in my opinion, not spirit of the cricket. However, you can't blame India for sort of cheating. I think if anything, Bangladesh didn't bat well, especially the start after Linton Das gave. I don't think they batted well to win the game. India deserved to win the game the way they fielded, they batted. The run out, brilliant run out of Linton Das. So in short, I'm saying in short again, yes, could have been better, and yes, I think BCCI is pretty much running ICC, but I don't see anything wrong with it because they bring all the money to the cricket, and they have some rights, they have some privileges, how to run when India will be playing, what days India will be playing, what time India will be playing, because that's your money maker, right? So yes, they do that. Like the teams, obviously the teams are not as aggressive towards Indians as they used to be, partially because of IPL, partially because they know them better now. I remember, like, used to read a lot of books about how people hated touring India. I'm talking about 60s, 70s and 80s, Delhi belly, and people used to have all these issues with traveling to India because of the food and hygiene and all that stuff. And now everyone loves India. So what is it? It's just the money. India is the same, just more money involved in cricket in India, and you get paid better over there. I know, like, people are looked after much better now than they used to be 30-40 years ago, but India is the same. What has changed is obviously there's a lot more money on offer, and there's a lot more interest in cricket by Indians. So yeah, fair play. I think definitely BCCI has influenced ICC, and things have changed. But I don't think India is buying the World Cup. It is just all these things have organically happened, not inorganic. There's no I think there's no cheating on India's part. I think there's no fault at BCCI's in this, that how the umpires are behaving or how the overall game is going. As I said, Kohli should have been at least warned, and they should have made it public that these things are not allowed, and we don't encourage young players to do it, like question umpire about no balls and doing the fake throw. Anyway, so I'll just cut it short now again, and India, I think, deserved to win. They played better cricket. Those things did happen. I don't think those are in spirit of the game, but that didn't give India advantage. I think India won the game against Bangladesh fair. So let's leave it to that, and we'll have another episode of Walk and Talk Cricket soon. Take care. Bye bye.